Hi guys, welcome to lesson 3 of the course Verbal Ability and Reading Comprehension for CAT. I am Angad Singh. You can follow me on this URL unacademy.com/user/Angad. Let's get started with the lesson. So we are going to look at moderate level of parajumbles now. We are going to increase the difficulty level compared to what we looked at in the previous lesson. If you want, you can have a look at the frameworks that we introduced in the introductory lesson on parajumbles. You can just have a cursory overview. I would suggest that you don't dive deep into all this. Just use your common sense and logic, and most probably, you'll arrive at the correct answer. Together, we're going to solve the problems and we're going to improve with each question. So let's have a look at the question. You can pause the video, you can try out your own solution, and I'll also look at the question and I'll also provide my solution and show you my approach, what goes through my mind while solving the question. Okay, so let's have a look. Written sensitively, the book explores. What book? Explores some of the socio-economic factors underlying the practice of female feticide. Okay. A young woman, Karupai, is arrested for strangling to death her newborn baby girl. Oh God. Gita's disappearing daughters. Okay, this sounds like a book to me. The book Disappearing Daughters answers some of the questions related to the decreasing population of girl children. Okay. The author's road journey first begins with the violent colors in this area of Tamil Nadu. Okay, so this is the author's journey. Okay. The book is like a travelogue documenting the discrimination. What discrimination? Discrimination against girl children. Discrimination against girls in terms of female feticide. Okay, so you can see that I've spent around 30 seconds or so maybe reading the 5 sentences, and it doesn't look very easy to me. I haven't been able to proceed anywhere. So I know that A will not be the opening sentence. B, again, it's probably the subject matter of the book. So I think C sounds like the opening sentence. It talks about the book, it talks about the problem that it tries to address, answers some of the questions related to the decreasing population of girl children. Okay. Disappearing daughters. So are we okay? So we could follow it up with A. Written sensitively, the book explores some of the socio-economic factors underlying the practice of female feticide. Or we could follow it up with E. The book is like a travelogue documenting the discrimination. E looks like a better follow-up. I'll tell you why. Or we could go ahead with D. The author's road journey first begins with the violent colors in Usulampati in Madurai district of Tamil Nadu. Okay. B clearly talks about some specifics of the book. It doesn't talk about very general parts of the book. D and E do that, don't they? C is clearly the opening sentence. Why? A cannot be it, B cannot be it, D definitely not, E definitely not. So at least I know for a fact that C is the opening sentence. So that has made life a little easier. What will follow? C. Of course, if you're talking about a book, you're gonna talk about, okay, so just have a look at the dichotomy here. You can either go on talking about the book, or you can go about talking about the problem at hand. So the subject matter here seems to be the book and not the discrimination against girl children. Just have a look why. All the sentences talk about the book. So the central theme of the paragraph is the book and the reference of the book to the discrimination. So the primary subject is the book. The book. This is again what happens in the book. Book, author's journey. The book is what? So I think E will follow C. Why? Because it's like a travelogue documenting the discrimination. So you start off with the documentation part. This is giving some sort of an introduction, some sort of a follow up to see that what the book is actually aimed at doing. It is aimed at becoming a travelogue documenting the discrimination. So if you're talking about a travelogue, we can talk about the road journey after that. Yeah, first begins with the violent collars in Usalampati in Madurai district of Tamil Nadu. A young girl is arrested for strangling to death her newborn baby girl. So CED. Okay, just I am pretty sure that CED should be the starting sentences. We look at A and B, but I think CDE, among CDE the sequence is CED. Why? C is clearly the opening sentence, and then you introduce that yes, it is a travelogue, what the book is actually about, and then when you talk about the travelogue, that is when you talk about how the journey begins. That is why we started off with E and then moved on to D rather than going from D to E, because this is what caught my eye, that book is like a travelogue. That is how I got to know that after C, E will come. Okay, so now we have the sequence CED. The author's road journey first begins with the violent colors, and then what are you going to talk about, A or B? Written sensitively, the book explores some of the socio-economic factors underlying the practice of female feticide. A young woman, Karupai, is arrested for strangling to death her newborn baby girl. Okay, B will come first. This is a case. Okay, now you might think that this violates what we learnt about examples coming after the theory, but this is clearly the case where you're going to talk, you want to talk about what happened in the book in continuation to what you're talking about, and then move on into the bigger issue of female feticide using this example. That is what would make sense to me. I don't know if I'm correct or not, but I would bet that B will come first. Why? Because this is what logically follows D. If you start off with CED and then make it AB, it breaks the flow. You don't want to go from talking about the book continuously and then you talk about the larger issue at hand and then go back to talking about the book. You want to use the book to explain what is going on in A. So A is what you want to end at. A is what you want to actually convey to the reader, and you're using the pivot of the book to do that. So you're gonna speak out sentence D as an author. You're gonna tell what happened in the book, and then you're gonna introduce the sentence A as a probably as a follow up to a bigger story. So I would always end this at A to leave the readers with this sentence that yes, this book explores some of the socio-economic factors underlying the practice of female feticide. So female feticide is the larger issue at hand that you want to leave the authors with. So I am gonna go with CED BA. Let's have a look. CEDBA. So I hope you understand why I went ahead with this sequence. It was a confusing question. It was not easy by any means at all. So if you got this correct, just give yourself a pat on the back. It was not an easy one. Especially the part between A and B. Checking A and B was not easy. Let's move on to the next one. Question 2. God of War will have to contend with more than just a lack of marketing muscle to be successful. Okay. Could be an opener. Novelties wear off, and that is when the game will have to sell purely on merit. True. Like any other game, if the challenge is too easy, gamers will dismiss it as dumb, and if it is too hard, they might give it up as obscure. Okay. We've tried to scale up the degree of difficulty depending on the problem solving skills and reflexes displayed by gamers at each stage of the game. Okay. A could be the starting sentence. Novelties wear off, and that is when the game will have to sell purely on merit. This is sort of a realization that people are having. I see that somebody is talking in first person, so they're probably, it could be an interview. Yeah, the USP of the game is its novelty of using real people. Okay. B, C, D, E don't look like the opening sentences to me. I'm gonna go with A as the opening sentence clearly. God of War will have to contend with more than just a lack of marketing muscle to be successful. You're sort of introducing a challenge, a problem that marketing muscle is not sufficient for the game to be successful. Then what you talk about? Okay, then you talk about novelties. Novelties wear off, and that is when the game will have to sell purely on merit. Okay, got it. A, E, B, C, D. That was fast. I think this should be the answer. Let's check if I'm uh, wrong somewhere. A is clearly the starting sentence. Then you talk what is the novelty of the game. Then you talk of the problem in the novelty, and then C and D talk about the follow up. Like any other game, if the challenge is too easy, gamers will dismiss it. So, what have we done? So, we've tried to scale up the degree of difficulty. I think this is the answer. A, E, B, C, D. Let's check. Yeah, that is it. Okay, let's check why. A was the opening sentence, we saw why. Now we talk about what's the speciality of the game. Because we have a hint from these sentences that we have a good follow up to sentence E. So first of all, you're going to talk what the game is about, what the USP of the game is, and then you're going to talk about the problem with that USP. You're never going to talk about the USP or the recommendation that you've sort of followed to tackle this problem that novelties are wearing off. So introduce the problem first. So the USP of the game is the novelty, and novelties wear off, and that is when the game will have to sell on merit. So this is again talking about the problem. Like any other game, if the problem is if the challenge is too easy, gamers will dismiss it as dumb, and if it's too hard, they might give it up as obscure. So sentence C tells you that the difficulty level of the game has to be just right. So what have they done to do that, to achieve that? So we've tried to scale up the difficulty depending on the problem solving skills displayed by gamers. So this is the recommendation or the solution to the problem that we've talked about in sentences B and C, and displayed it in sentence D. So this was again a fairly easy one, not a very difficult one. And so I hope you understood the logic behind why I arrived at this answer. And in case of any doubts, feel free to comment. And let's move on to the next lesson on Parajumbles itself. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.